Hello, I'm here. Hello from a microphone. So anyway, I'm Luke Johnson. I'm with SimpleView. I'm the director of CS operations, which means I wear a lot of hats and I do a lot of good stuff. And I tend to work with our partners. One of our partners is AudioEye. They focus on digital accessibility. So I've got a few minutes here before I hand it over to Jason. And I'll talk to you all about SimpleView and digital accessibility and why we think it's important. If I run out of time, I've also got a booth out front. It's kind of at the top of the escalator, so I'd love to have anybody stop by and chat with you. I'm going to be attending the sessions as best I can, but in between, I'll get parked out there. And my contact information will be around for anybody that wants to reach out afterwards. So, yeah, we're going to talk about the overview of digital accessibility, why it's important for destination websites. So let's dive on in. I should take a moment here to say that I've got a story from Grand Rapids that I didn't have time to fit into the presentation. Maybe leave that as a little bonus item for later. So please stop by the booth and we can talk about that. Worked with Experience Grand Rapids. We at SimpleView worked with them for a very long time. They're one of our great partners and they've spent a lot of time focusing on digital accessibility and real world travel accessibility as well. So excited to share their story with you. If you want to stop by the booth or just send me an email. Web accessibility is meant to be a lot like actual real-world accessibility, right? If we look on the left here, you see what we call the ramps and rails, right? The kinds of things that you expect to see at a building like this one, at a hotel, at a restaurant, at an attraction. Web accessibility or digital accessibility is the same thing, but for your website and the way that your digital content is delivered to the world. AudioEye is the partner that we at SimpleView work with. SimpleView is based out of Tucson. We were excited to partner with AudioEye, who also happens to be based out of Tucson, so a couple of homegrown Tucson, Arizona companies. And they help us build the ramps and rails of the internet. So here's the Shark Tank slide, as I like to call it. It's got all the numbers, and these were mentioned in a couple of the presentations earlier. I think the one on the left is most important, right? 19 to 26% was the number that was thrown around of adults in the U.S. identify as having a disability. And a disability can be, even what was mentioned earlier, it can be color blindness, right? It can be dyslexia. There can be a lot of different things that can generally affect the way that your website is viewed and worked with by people that are accessing the web. And so why not take the time to make sure that your content is as accessible for all as it is for the fully able-bodied. So there's a few different ways to focus on how you can make things accessible, right? It comes down to disabilities that tend to be in the areas of touch, hear, see, and speak, right? And each one of these little slides shows if it's a permanent disability, how that might affect you, versus a temporary disability, versus a situational disability. And I think the top left box there is a very helpful one, right? If someone is permanently disabled in terms of not having both their arms, then they might use a mouse and a keyboard differently than the rest of us. But that same situation might apply to someone temporarily if they have an arm injury, or situationally if they happen to have just had a child and they're got a newborn that they're trying to keep occupied while they're also trying to do their business, right? And the same thing goes for hearing, for seeing, for speaking, right? There's permanent versus temporary versus situational disabilities that we should try to be aware of. So why do you need web accessibility? There's a lot of reasons here. I'll save the top left one for last. It's kind of what I mentioned earlier. Customer satisfaction, we feel, is super important. Again, if a fifth to a quarter of the people that visit your website have a hard time reading it, discerning different colors, they need to use a screen reader, right? Then you want to improve that customer satisfaction for that portion of your website visitors. Reputation is also very important, right? If you come to be known as one of the DMOs, one of the websites, one of the destinations that is focused on this kind of thing, you can reduce risk and improve your reputation by staying on top of those things. And discoverability is also very important. It's getting to where Google and other search engine tools are paying more attention to whether content is made accessible in terms of how you rank. And then finally, legal compliance can be a thing. It's something that there was a famous story where Beyonce's website was sued for not being accessible, digitally, and there are a bunch of what they call lawsuit hawks that go around, and they basically try to find websites that might not, be meeting their standards, and they try to toss out, lawsuits that may or may not have a lot of hold. But what we found is that if you show that you are working towards keeping your site accessible, that's enough to scare away those frivolous lawsuits. They're not actually working to get to the bottom of it, unfortunately. They're just trying to find opportunities in places where there is an opportunity there for them to potentially, unfortunately, make money. So web accessibility can play a role there. And here's the slide that just says all the stuff that I said just now. So, interest of time, we'll keep on moving. So, just a couple accessibility best practices that you can do for the hospitality and tourism industry, just to run through these quickly. Alt text, in case you guys don't know, that's the way that people that use a screen reader that might have a vision impairment, they use that to view the website. And so, if you have alt text describing your images, that goes a long way in terms of them being able to take in that content. PDFs, believe it or not, principal document format is not great for people that use screen readers and people that use other assistive devices for creating their content. And so if you have a certain piece of content that has always lived as a PDF, if it's some sort of agenda, if it's some sort of takeaway, try to have that content available as an actual web page, as an HTML page as well. And then make sure your descriptions are specific and honest in terms of how you're handling all that content, so stay on top of that. And then just give visitors multiple ways to get in touch with you. So whether that's having a form, having an email, having social media handles, there's lots of different ways that people with impairments might prefer to talk to you. And I think it was Patrick that said, hey, the good old-fashioned phone. If you can make that available to some people, that's one of the most usable tools for people with impairments. All right, and I realize I'm starting to run short on time, so I'll skip through these pretty quick here. AudioEye, like I said, is our partner. It is a web accessibility platform that improves accessibility and minimizes risk for digital websites, digital surfaces, as we call it, including websites. Here's a picture of visitlasvegas.com, and on the right side there is the little slide-out menu that AudioEye offers that provides certain things that people with impairments often like to use. They can make the cursor bigger. They can make certain text highlighted. They can change the fonts. They can change the colors. And they can do this without you having to pre-program any of your content. So the concept is that you build your content the best way that you want to, and then the AudioEye overlay can then allow people to very quickly, through CSS, change that, and so that they can view the site in different ways and make sure that they can browse it in the best way possible for them. What's even more important for AudioEye and for the tool that it offers is that it does both an automation and a service layer in terms of looking through your code and your website and finding accessibility issues with how your code is actually being built and written, right? So the overlay can help adjust fonts and things like that, but there are certain inherent items that can't be changed by that overlay. And so AudioEye has a system that it goes through and it attempts to find issues that it can automatically resolve on top of your website without any help or assistance from you. And then there's also a services layer where we audit and they go look at some of the base issues with your site, and then they can provide a report and provide you with feedback on, hey, if you adjust the way your team, either your content team or your web development team is inputting that content, it's going to solve this issue moving forward, and it's something that the AudioEye layer can't handle by itself, right? So you get to work hand in hand with AudioEye to make sure that your website is staying as accessible as possible. The other thing to note is that just like ADA standards are updated, so are the Web Content and Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG. It's an initialism that doesn't have a fun way of saying it. I've heard many people call it WCAG. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but if you hear me say that, that's what I'm talking about. WCAG 2.0 was kind of the big, most recent update that was published in 2008 and became an ISO standard in 2012. They've since updated to 2.1 in 2018 and 2.2 in 2023. And that's one of the big advantages of AudioEye that we see, is that it's not you do a one-time audit on your website and then that's written in stone and you have to come back 6 months, a year, 2 years later. AudioEye is always running, that overlay is always available, and the automation, both in terms of the automated fixes and the reports that you're getting, are happening all the time. So you can always be working towards creating new content, keeping your content up to date, right? And of course, you're writing new content all the time, right? New pages, new microsites, new blog posts. You want to make sure you're staying on top of those as you go. So I've talked about our partnership with AudioEye, automatic detection and correction of most accessibility issues, along with some reporting that provides information back to you. So to cover what that remediation is like, when you get this AudioEye report, it'll fall into 3 categories. It'll show you all the issues that are automatically resolved for you. It'll show you that certain things that require a custom solution, which means that AudioEye has actually recognized this and said, hey, I think we can adjust our code over time to, in the future, take care of issues like this. But then the third item is the fix-it source, where they'll essentially say, hey, this is something that we can't fix now, and it's actually like at the root of the code and the way that you're building your site. We recommend you jump in and change this. And the really great thing about their tool is that it provides very guided details and pages on each one of the kinds of issues that you might see. So it's not just a, hey, go fix this, good luck. It is, hey, go fix this, and here is a page that shows you exactly what the issue is, how we recommend you fix it, how it will help those that are having a hard time with this page, and it'll provide example pages on your own website in terms of how you can go check that out and see if you can get it fixed. Like I said, I'd love to tell you some stories if we got a minute with you out in the booth, talk about Grand Rapids and some of the other websites that we work with that are doing an awesome job in terms of going a step further, creating accessible content in terms of how their hotels and their attractions are displayed, microsites, different things like that. And that's about my time, so I'll hand it over to Jason unless anybody's got any quick questions. Okay, we'll save for questions later. With that, I'll pass it over to Jason, but thanks everybody for your time. I'm with Simple View. Come see me out of the booth and love to say hi. Thanks again.
Good job, Luke.
Thanks.
How much time do we have, Juliana? 15 minutes, okay. My name's Jason McKee, and I have a company called Perspective Tester. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a background of how I got to have that company and where we come from. September 25th, 2018, I went to a marketing meeting to get a new client for a little marketing company I had. And the gentleman in the meeting was blind, and he was reading his emails using a screen reader. And I had never heard that sound before or seen someone blind navigate the web. And I was in my 40s. I had a long career in marketing and technology, and it struck me that I really wasn't paying attention to the different types of users. I mean, we would have meetings with 15 people talking about personas and who's this person, what are they going to buy, and all these things. And here is a huge segment of the population that is never considered in any of the meetings, in any of the jobs, in any of the businesses that I've ever worked at for 20 years. And I realized, and then the gentleman he was from New York, and he had one of these in-your-face attitudes, and he had just lost his vision, and he was just learning how to use a screen reader and learning how to go on with his life and not being able to see. And he gave me an earful. He's like, you guys are building stuff that doesn't work for us, and there's laws about this, and I don't understand what's going on. And he was suing people, he was calling lawyers, and he was going to make some changes. And it inspired me, and I went home and I started researching this, and I was like, was he correct? Is it true? Most importantly, was there any kind of regulation or laws about this? And I was shocked that the web that we have grown up with over the last 20 years or so, 30 years, I guess, as we've seen all these amazing technologies come and all these just absolutely incredible things happen in our lives, that no one has been paying attention to any kind of standards. It's like we went into the desert and started building this huge city, and all of a sudden there's a flash flood and everything gets washed away. Where's the planning? Why isn't there any standards? If you go to build a house or you go to build a shed in your backyard, the government's going to come and tell you how to do it. And if you do it wrong, they're going to send you a bill and they're going to take you to court. All these things happen. But in the web, someone is going to go to register to vote, or they're going to pay their electric bill, or they're going to order some food, or all these other things, or they're going to go to the school website to find out what time their kids' chorus concert is. None of that works, and nobody's doing anything about it. There's a few times in life, I think, when you get to look at the way things actually are, and you have an opportunity to do something about it. So that's what we do at Perspective Tester. I get to not only travelability is fantastic, by the way. After that 2018 meeting, I'd written an article for Wired Magazine about this phenomenon that I just encountered, and Tricia Roth reached out and said that they were starting something called Travelability, and it was going to be the first show in San Francisco, and could I come and speak? And I was like, oh my, I've never spoken ever. I don't know if I can do that, but I wanted to start this business, so I said I would. And I got to meet some amazing people, some of whom I see in this room right now that I keep seeing at these shows. This show is it's almost like coming home, because I don't have to sit here and talk about why accessibility is important. But the rest of my life is going to marketing conferences in Las Vegas with a bunch of drunk people, and I'm like, no, accessibility actually matters. And it's really hard to get the point across and to get that mass audience to understand what's going on. So here, there's probably a lot of really powerful, inspiring stories just in this little room right here. I'm certain of that. And that makes it fun. And these are the kind of people that you get to meet someone and you realize the things that they're carrying, the things that they've gone through, the challenges that they face every day. It humbles you. It makes you stop whining and complaining because you scratched your car or because your interest rate's too high on your credit card. All these other things that we worry about. So I love, accessibility has done so much for me as a person. It has let me start a business. It has let me come and meet interesting people, but it has inspired me to stop talking and to start listening and to stop thinking that I know everything and to start looking for things that I don't know. There's somebody in a room right now that's trying to navigate a website for a very important thing, and they can't do it, and they don't have anyone to ask for help. I'm doing a show next month, and we just had a prep call with the speakers who are both deaf, and it's a Zoom call. And there's an interpreter on the call speaking, and they're just signing, but they're telling me the history of their company and how it was founded right after World War II by someone who was deaf and couldn't use a telephone, and they developed TTY, and it just became this game changer. There are so many game changers that have happened because of disabilities, people with disabilities. I think about if I would be disabled today, I would probably be sitting on the couch and feeling sorry for myself and asking people for help. Like the gentleman who developed TTY, he had to ask somebody for help. So he wanted to call his doctor to get information about his test results. He had to find someone else to hand the phone to that the doctor was going to give the results. These are things that are just, it's not acceptable. And when you look at how much technology we have and how fast our world moves and how simple it is to fix these problems, there's no excuse anymore. And at Perspective Tester, we have a different approach, let's say, than the larger companies in this space. And I don't care if we don't get large because of it. It really does not matter. I get to hire people with disabilities who explain to me what their experience is. And they can explain if something works or it doesn't. And I think if we have a video here, we're going to show, I believe, if they can pull it up, I'll show you an example of the kind of things that we do. Accessibility, especially, well, there's a spectrum of disabilities, right? The first show I was at where there was blind deaf people, I was shocked. How does someone live without being able to see and hear? What is their experience like? And I was taught that there's a spectrum. It doesn't mean you can't see anything. It doesn't mean you can't hear anything usually. Now, some people do have that experience, and one of them there wanted to use the restroom, so they had to draw it on his back with their hand. They mapped the room and showed it where it was, and he went to the bathroom and came back. It was amazing what people do and the challenges they face every day just to get by, just to go to the restroom at a conference. They shouldn't have to do that to book a trip. We're talking about travel ability here. There's a lot of websites out there that we would use on our phone. Like I could be driving and go and book a flight to Houston right now at 80 miles an hour, no problem at all. all my browser knows all my preferences, all the credit cards information's in there, boom, boom, boom. That doesn't work that way for everybody else. And for a company like Kayak to not worry about it and not be accessible, and to have so many resources, and to not even consider how simple it is. We could fix this website today, if we were asked to, if we were given access to the code. My team, not only people with disabilities, but they're programmers, they're computer scientists, they're data scientists, they're very intelligent, very capable people who happen to have the perspective of someone who's disabled. So I'm going to play this video. I'm not sure the audio, we didn't test this. So Florian, who's Dutch, he's from the Netherlands, he's my lead tester. He's blind, and he's going on the website, and he's going to try to book a trip. On these sites, you're going to get to a calendar where it's going to say what dates are you going to travel.
One adult, but
So we just went from just a thing that says one adult, that pops open to show me one adult, youths, children, students, toddlers.
seniors
Oh, we got it.
checked.
Thanks, guys.
Kayak.com, which is one of the many trip planning websites that are out there. We have Trivago, we have Expedia, Booking.com, lots of them here. And this is just the one I'm going to look at because it has a really interesting form that I would like to show off. Let's just tab through this form and see just how much happens as we do, because everything but the kitchen sink is thrown at us as we go through this form here.
One adult, but
So we just went from just a thing that says one adult, that pops open to show me one adult, youths, children, students, toddlers,
seniors, youth spin button editable selected 0.
through all of that. I'm
In-
using when are we going to Bangkok?
Start date calendar input, end date calendar input button, menu,
We'll open the start date calendar and the date calendar button menu. And nothing happened. Let's tab.
dates radio button checked 1 of 3. Weekend radio button not checked 2 of 3.
Let's, for ease of use, just pick dates.
Combo box exact collapsed. Combo box exact collapsed. Previous month button. Saturday, September 16th, 2023 button. Sat 9/23, Sun 9/24. Saturday, September 23rd, 2023 button. Saturday, September 23rd. Sunday, September 24th.
I just pressed one key to get all that output.
But you can see when he gets to the date in the calendar to book the trip, he clicked one button, and you heard all of that information come out. That is, not only is it frustrating for Florian to book his trip, but it's inexcusable and it's just silliness. Why do we do it that way? Nobody's testing this? You know how many millions of people use this site every day? And this, by the way, is a random site. We can go, I think Luke had a slide, 97% of the web, according to WebAIM, is inaccessible. That's the landscape we're in right now. And I think it's groups like Travelability and Jake and Tricia and the people in this room who need to make some noise because we're already talking about accessibility. So you have a destination site for Orlando or for wherever. Are you testing it? Who tested it? Are you paying $10,000 a month to a company to do your accessibility? Have you asked them how they test? This is the only question you need to ask. If they're not doing manual testing with human beings finding out what the experience is like on the web, then you might as well just put that money in a pile and set it on fire. It's not going to do any good. There's no automated solution for this. It has to be human beings testing it. It's the nature of the code. It's the web that we built. It's what we have right now. So everything where you want someone to actually get information from the website or use it or book something or purchase something, that has to be tested. And that's what we do. We test from the perspective of these people who have a disability, which requires them to use a device to use the web. It's pretty simple. It's governed by law in this country and others. And if you want any information about it, please look me up on perspectivetester.com. I think my time's up, but thank you very much.